Welcome to another episode of the Go With John Show. We have the Gepford family here today, and they are the owners of Pro Mow. Welcome, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have Brian and Chris and Christopher.
Yes.
So this will be fun. So Chris, you started Pro Mow. So tell us a little bit about how you got the company started and why.
Well, I saw a need. It was starting to pick up, people having their grass cut. And I was working for basically the federal government. I was working out at Dulles Airport at the time. And I just jumped into it. I started it with one mower. Actually had my dad help me out with financing a mower. At the time, I had Brian and my oldest son. I was married. Working out at the airport was great, but it was only 40 hours a week. So I needed something to fill in my income. So I started doing this, and I saw the potential. Now, by seeing the potential, you know, if you want to work 100, 200 hours a week, whatever that may be, you're going to get paid.
Right.
And it's all on you. If you don't want to work, you're not going to get paid. I just saw an endless supply of money, and I knew if I hustled, I could make it work. And to be honest with you, I had no choice. I had to do it. And it was tough.
What year was that about?
90. I started in 1990.
Okay.
Full time in 93. So a mentor of mine had a large fertilizer company in the area. And he was like, hey, you know, let's join forces. It was starting to, at that time, people were starting to want an all-in-one service, all-in-one company to do their services. He did not want to do that. He didn't want to manage a mowing company, a mulching company. Not only that, he had a franchise.
Right.
So he would have to put that under his franchise. The franchise fees were pretty expensive. So we had talked about it, and he, at the time, he was like, look, you know, I'm probably going to guarantee you 300 customers right off the get-go. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. You know, I mean, that's an awful lot. Probably at the time, I was probably mowing 25, 30 customers.
Right.
Part-time.
Right.
Well, as you know, a young family guy, I was like, I got to do this. I just don't see, I got basically a dead-end job where I'm at the airport. Yes, was there securities there, but financially, dollar amount wasn't on to cut the mustard. I had goals that I wanted to achieve. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. And so I let it ride for a year, still doing my own thing and just trying in my head, figure out how I can make this jump and do it without damaging my finances severely and keeping my family together.
Right. And, you know, interestingly enough, back in the 90s, because I was starting my own company back at about the same time, we didn't have the internet.
Right.
We didn't really have anybody to talk to, you know, you could go and find some resources, but all of us that started businesses in the 80s and the 90s, we did it on our own.
Right.
With our own brain.
That's right.
And from advice from people that we met along the way.
Exactly.
And it was scary.
It certainly was scary. I made that leap, and it was tough. I mean, it was definitely tough, but I never looked back. I certainly had naysayers along the way. You'll never make it. You're not making enough money. You know, look at how much, when you break it down, look how much you're making per hour. You could be, you know, doing something different and making more per hour. But in my head, I'm always like, it's endless. To me, it's endless.
Right. How are those naysayers doing today?
It's funny that you say that. I think about certainly one that comes to mind was my CPA at the time.
Yeah.
And he was against me doing what I was doing.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And my mentor was, you never let a CPA run your business.
Right.
Because they're numbers guys.
Right.
And they're just looking at numbers.
Right.
You have to do what you feel comfortable in doing. And that's what I did.
Yeah. It is interesting, though, when you're trying to start a business and run a business, how many people will tell you it will never work? Because I had the same thing. And, and sometimes it's the people that are closest to you that are saying, wow, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're making a big mistake. And it turns out for you and me, the naysayers were wrong.
Right.
But it's easy to predict failure because,
sure.
90% of businesses go out of business after the first 5 years, right? So it's easy to be a naysayer.
Yeah.
They're usually mostly right.
But I think people that are naysayers, they can put just as much effort into being a naysayer as they can to try to help you and push you.
Right.
That's
true.
So
yeah.
There's a choice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So the person that was against me was a big country club guy. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I joined the country club, and he was a member at the country club.
That's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I have I don't have any issues with them, none
Sure.
whatsoever.
No, I get it. Some of my best friends were naysayers. I get it. Yeah, I get it. So how did you make the jump then from being one guy pushing a lawnmower to now you took on these 300 clients? So did you hire people, or how did you make that jump?
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly how it happened. Ironically, where I was at, the building where I started out at was my mentor's place.
Nice.
And it was next door to a 7-Eleven.
Right.
So it afforded me, people that were coming in and out of 7-Eleven when I'm over there in the morning getting my coffee.
Right.
Whenever that was, late afternoon, going over there and getting a 6-pack, I would run into people and I would just start asking, hey, and that led to one guy, led to his family member, and so on and so on and so on, and it's grown from there.
Right. So how many years did you push the mower by yourself before you just ballpark
That's
it?
a good question. I'm going to say probably 5 years at least.
Yeah.
And then probably transitioned into part-time doing it. Mm-hmm. I knew at the time when I did start transitioning out that I was going to lose some of that productivity.
Right.
But on the back end, I was on the gain in other aspects of the business.
Right.
Sales, managing, the business better.
Right.
And yes, it did. There was, a learning curve.
Yeah. So when did your sons get involved? How did they get involved in the company?
Wow. Well, the funny side of it is them being involved in the business was summer breaks.
Yeah.
And them, because I couldn't take it than just laying around. And they had activities. I mean, certainly we had vacation.
Right.
They all played football.
Right.
So their schedules with football, you couldn't really have a regular summer job.
Yeah.
So they would come to work.
So basically what you're saying is they didn't really have a choice.
They really didn't have a choice, no.
We would have at the house, we would sit down in the evenings and fold invoices and seal them into the envelopes, like an assembly line.
Right.
Easy stuff for us to do. Not necessarily going out and working on a job. But it was sort of anything that they needed help with, they would bring us into.
Right. Trust me, they were held hostage. It was like, listen, if you want to go out and, whatever, go skateboarding, or this project has to be done.
Yeah. My mom had a different technique because she's in real estate, and they would mail out, my mom and dad would mail out postcards. And she would say, oh, yeah, this will be fun. Here, let's put stamps on these. So we would watch TV and stamp postcards at night. So we had kind of the same thing. So Christopher, what was one of your first jobs with the family business?
So, I mean, I'm probably similar sort of thing, small tasks like that. But then I would think towards the beginning, probably middle of high school is when I started kind of getting thrown out and doing some of the labor part of it, which I did not like at all. And you get, I think in a lot of business aspects, when you get out there and you do, whether it's manual work or kind of get your hands dirty, you get an appreciation of it later down the road,
right?
Especially if you have people that are working for you that are doing it. So probably high school, getting thrown into the summer mix, and then a little bit once I got into college, back and forth. I tried a few different. I did an internship at like Carfax one college year, and then worked at a golf course. So probably high school is when I started to get into the mix.
Okay. So what is it like working with family?
How long is this podcast
Like I said, I just got to say, the folks listening, we just got 3 really big deep breaths here.
It's challenging. There's the challenges are this. For me, these are my sons.
Right.
Now, I also have 2 other sons. One's in college, and an older son who's doing his own thing, and that's fantastic. Certainly, I never pushed them to come into the business. It was there. And I said, hey, you guys need to go do what you want to do. All the kids, except for my youngest, he's still in college. They're all graduates. So I feel good about that my kids have gone to college and graduated. But again, it was never, you need to come to the business.
Right.
If you want to, that's great, but I'm not going to force your hand at it. But now having them in it, there's challenges, and there's challenges, that I expect them to work harder than the employees work. You have guys and women that are looking at them going, oh, that's, the owner's sons. They get away with stuff.
Right.
And
do you guys get away with stuff?
No, I mean, I try to, really be the first one in and be the first one out. I try to put in, everything that I can.
Right.
And, the way that I look at it is the more time I put in, the more I learn.
Yep.
The more of an asset I can be, and the more I can
help. When you say the first one out, you mean the first one out in the field?
First one out at the end of the day. Oh, I'm sorry. First one in the morning. Yeah. Right. And then last one out.
Right. I thought that's what you meant. Yeah. I was just going to get that straight.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just trying to be that person within the company that can be of a help, no matter who you are, whatever position, you're in, that you can come to me or I can come to you, and I have an understanding I can help you do your job,
I think I think some people, maybe from the outside, because it is a family business, would think like, oh, they're either dishing work out to others or they're sitting back. But, with the positions we're in, it's sort of the opposite, shutting down at night. And, a lot of the big things, if we don't do our part, then it's going to be a big domino effect of things not going right day to day.
Right. Right. I think it's hard for anybody to understand what really goes on in a business or a family business, because it runs 24/7, really. Exactly. You guys are, because you're probably similar. It's in our family, when we're sitting around having dinner, we're talking about real estate transactions or things that are happening in the real estate industry. And it's probably the same for you guys.
It's unfortunate that there is not a complete separation when there are those family times together. Our vacations, unfortunately, fall into business stuff.
Right.
Now, some of that's okay because now we're in a relaxed environment and we can have, conversations and not having other people coming at us, trying to improve on the business.
Right.
But certainly there's never this 100% cutoff when we're together as a family.
Right, because it's always on your mind, and a question comes up, and you're right there, and then you want to get it answered and done and move it on. Yep, right. I get it. Yeah.
Right. It was funny when I was just down spending some time with my dad. He listens to what's going on with the phone calls during the day. You know, he's just hearing me talking, and he's, you know, giggling about it. And I mentioned something, and he's like, it was like first thing in the morning. And he's like, that just popped into your head? And I'm like, no, these things bounce around in my head 24/7. It never, ever leaves me. And unfortunately, that's a curse, you know, when you're self-employed. And it can be a good curse. You need to take advantage of it. And I feel like successful people, which certainly I do not ever claim to be successful. I don't think I'll ever claim to be successful. But if it's constantly clicking in your head, you're trying to improve.
Right. Right. Well, I think that's what most successful people do, is they try to be, and in fact, that's some of the greatest advice I got when I was a young painter. You know, and I had a customer who was really well off, and I said, how did you get here? What did you have to do to get all this? And he said, I try to go to bed every night just a little better than when I woke up that morning, every day, you know, and that's exactly what you're saying, is just try to be a little better every day, and then you keep building on that. So.
Well, I've heard throughout the years being in business, you know, you have a successful business. And I've always said, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I feel like if I concede to that notion of being successable, then I'm done.
Then you get complacent, and then things start going wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have goals. I mean, and the goals are probably, you know, unattainable.
Right.
But that's okay. I'm working at them. Now, I'm not disappointed if I don't reach some of those crazy goals, but, you know, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to improve.
We just wrapped up a great conversation with Ray Greenstreet with greenstreetgardens.com. Take a listen to his episode. You're going to really hear how passionate he is about gardening. If you have questions about gardening, send it to inthedirt@greenstreetgrowers.com. If you want to visit his retail website, check him out at greenstreetgardens.com. Ray Greenstreet. Great story, great product, 3 locations, 1 in Maryland, 2 in Virginia. You can find them online. When you get in touch with them over there at Green Street, let them know that you heard them here on the Go With John show. So tell us about some of your goals, and then we're gonna talk to the boys. Let's hear about. Let's hear about some of your goals that are crazy.
Well, certainly, you know, financially would be, you know, where you don't have any worries.
Right.
Would be a huge goal.
But now, hold on a second. You told me on the elevator up here that you always worry. So is that what you mean? That's never going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I would ideally, it would be nice to be away from this area.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about what's going on in the business. None whatsoever.
Right.
Not worry about any finances, be comfortable with my finances.
Right.
And I would hope that I would feel comfortable at that time. I don't, probably not, just because it's my nature.
Sure, exactly. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So what other goals do you have?
Certainly the business being successful, certainly the kids being successful in the business, and financially successful for them.
Right.
That, you know, they can enjoy the benefits of my hard work and certainly their hard work.
Right.
Would be awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great. Those are all great goals. So Brian, so what do you do within the company? What's your role?
So my role, position is general manager, but heavy within all the operations. My big focus is making sure that, you know, all of our crews, all of our jobs, all of our scheduling, you know, everything that in all these moving pieces are just operating smoothly, you know, that we're being profitable on the jobs that we're presentable on our jobs, that our equipment, is working, as it should. And like I said earlier, is just being there for as many, of the employees in the company as I can,
right.
To help.
So how many employees do you guys have right now?
We're just under 50. So
okay, that's
we're
a
in the
lot of people.
mid-40s.
Yeah.
We do, yeah. And that's about, we're anywhere from about 13 to 15 trucks out on the road on a daily basis.
Right.
Different departments.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So, but you guys are really smart because you limit your service area.
Correct.
And I know that because I had no idea that we were all going to be sitting down together one day having a conversation on a podcast. But you guys used to cut my grass back in the 2013, 14, and I lived in Oakton, and then I moved to McLean, and you said, well, we don't go to McLean. And I said, would you make an exception?
Yeah.
He said, no. So what is your service area?
So our office is located down in the Stone Ridge area. So right there on that section of Loudoun County. So we really don't go past the Oakton area. So that's sort of our furthest, east, west, we really don't go past Route 15. Mm-hmm. And then as far as north and south, we're pretty much, we stay below Route 7 and we stay above 66. So that's the goal, is to try to keep the service area as, I don't want to say small, but as efficient, especially with just traffic, the pricing of our services. I mean, as a mowing service, you're averaging around maybe $35 a service. So in order to, pay the bills and be profitable, you really have to be efficient.
Right.
How many of those $35 services can you fit in?
Absolutely.
To one day? So,
yeah, and the travel time in between, and the fuel, and getting to the first job and back home from the last job. I get it.
That's right. The payroll. I mean, it's, again, a $35 service requires 3 guys.
Right.
Requires a truck, a trailer, the equipment that goes with it. So
fuel.
Yes, it's extremely difficult. So, every year we have conversations about our service area and look at where our existing customers are, and where can we grow more to make those routes more efficient. You know? And it all points back to closer to the shop, the more manageable that is.
Yeah,
instead
absolutely.
Of driving out.
Yeah. Plus, if you get a breakdown, then you can go and
it's challenging, and certainly, the current conditions, in our country, it's double challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
And certainly now with the price of fuel, we have gone in. I mean, it is a constant analysis on how we can continue to try to be profitable, which is very difficult, and certainly setting that profit margin. Our suppliers are going up.
Yep.
And raising their prices, I should say, and it's almost daily.
Right.
We obviously, the price of fuel.
Yep.
You try to do a general, increase, certainly to cover your employees, with their raises and stuff.
Right.
And you turn around and you throw in how much supplies have gone up.
Yep.
Now how much fuel is going up.
Right.
It's difficult, and trying to pass that on to the consumer is not easy. Now we get looked at as just some podunks that are cutting grass.
Right.
Okay. And that's been one of the challenges that I've had throughout my whole career, is people just looking at us or looking at me going, hey, you're just a grass cutter. You're just coming from the mountains, coming in here, just cutting grass. Anybody can cut grass.
Right.
And that's, yes, everybody has cut grass, in their lifetime. And yeah, it's not that difficult. But running a business, to do it, to make a living, is the challenge.
It certainly is.
And we have people in place. I mean, we're extremely professional. I feel like customer service is a huge part of our business.
Right.
Again, anybody can cut grass. You have a lot of one truck operations out there that are doing it and doing it cheaper. I respect that, because that's how I started out.
Sure.
As the one truck guy. So I do respect that. But selling it to a customer that this is what you're getting is not that easy when they're just looking at prices.
Yeah, I got you.
I've always said that our best customer is a customer that had another lawn service. You know, the 1-2 truck guy ends up being our best customer. Yeah, or as that goes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's challenging, and like I said, we get talked down to a lot. That was one of my biggest challenges, and I'll tell you a quick story. Back when I was out doing sales, I knocked on the door, or a customer called, you know, a potential customer, you know, wanted an estimate. So it was a big deal to, you know, walk the yard, look at it, write the estimate up, knock on the door and talk to the customer.
Right.
So I did that, and the customer looked at me and was like, hey, your prices are a little high. You know, you're coming from the mountains, you know, you're just putting this money in your pocket, this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, that's not the case. And I was offended by it. This wasn't the first time. So I was ready. I'm like, yeah, I'd like, you know, I need to put my kids through college. You know, I got one now. It's getting ready to go to college. I live in the neighborhood, if not close by. I know your neighbors very well. And to be honest with you, I probably coached, if your son played football, I probably coached him. So I'm not that guy. You know, just because I'm a grass cutter doesn't mean that I'm a, you know, per se deadbeat, just putting cash in my pocket and not paying taxes and whatnot. No, this is my livelihood. This is how I support my family.
And you did, by the way, put both of these boys through college. All four of them.
I'm on my number 4. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, he's a junior. He's a junior at West Virginia.
Yeah.
The 2 older boys graduated from West Virginia, and Christopher graduated from Radford.
Yep.
And I went to college for 1 year and
had enough.
I was done. Yeah,
it was a different time. So, Christopher, what are you doing in the company? What's your role?
So, primarily our sales and marketing,
right.
And there's some operations into the mix as well. So those two, and that's what I, you know, got a business degree in management, and a minor in marketing. So, you know, those are the 2 primary roles, but I think a lot of it too is just coming fresh from sort of, you know, learning about business, you know, how books teach business, and seeing what ways I can either, you know, enhance or sort of adjust how the businesses are ran.
Right.
So some of that I think has been, you know, looking into, because we do so much volume of services, you know, hundreds, if not, you know, upwards to 1,000 a week.
Right.
And with each service, you know, there's a crew. It's the time that they take to do these jobs. If there's materials being put down, it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of stuff to look at, and that's what's determining if you're making, you know, a profit.
Right.
And with that, you know, in recent years, looking more into, you know, what kind of software that we're using, how are we inputting, you know, this data? Are we getting, you know, accurate and useful, you know, reports and data that can be applied?
Right.
So that's something I would say probably in the last 18 months, I've, you know, dived more into, and you know, some things we've made some adjustments, I think, for the better. And so that's been like a sort of an ongoing project I've put time into, but sales and marketing as well. And, you know, when I was about to graduate, sitting down with them, talking about, hey, you know, if you're going to come and work here, this is where we think you could bring value. So I think taking that conversation and trying to do the best job possible, sort of what I, you know, when I wake up, that's what I want to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it takes all different kinds of brains to run a company, all different kinds of viewpoints. So what kind of lessons have you learned from your dad?
This ought to be interesting. You need to put both of them on the spot.
I'm coming back over to Brian in a second. Yeah, Christopher's he's got to get some mic time here.
Yeah, I've learned. You know, I guess one of the words that come to mind, I think, is like patience.
Yeah.
Having patience
with your dad. or
I
having
think just
patience with it?
overall.
Yeah.
Overall. You know, and that could kind of tie into, you know, how you react to something, whether it's business or in life, if maybe it doesn't go as planned.
Right.
You know, maybe eliminating the time. If something you do, it doesn't go the way you expected it, eliminating the time, fretting over it, upset, you know, just moving on to the next thing, trying to get better. So, you know, communication is a big thing. I think ever since I've been young, and it's, you know, been tied to work and just outside of work, but I think he's been fantastic at just building and maintaining relationships.
Right.
You know, which even before we started recording, you were talking about the, you know, importance of having connections, having relationships.
Right.
A lot of people, whether it's business or in life, they can spark relationships, but how long does it last?
Right.
So seeing him from when I was younger, having conversations on the phone or in person with people, and now, you know, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years on the road, still having conversations with the same people and more. I think I've learned a lot of lessons of, you know, the importance of, and what keeps those relationships, just being good friend, being honest,
right,
working to make the relationship healthy. And I think that it can apply to a ton of things, business and outside of it.
So I think your dad and I come from the same era, more or less, and I've got, you know, deep friendships from that time. So I'd be curious, how do you think the digital world that we live in today is going to impact your ability to have these long-term deep relationships? Do you think it's, you know, 20, 30 years from now, do you think you're going to have the same kind of relationships that your dad and I have with our peers of our early days? Do you think you'll be able to maintain that kind of a relationship going forward?
Yeah, I think it depends. You know, I think and like you said, sort of the digital era, and now we're able to reach endless amounts of different people.
Yeah.
So I think that can be great, because when that wasn't the case, there was a smaller amount of people you could come across.
And you got much closer to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think that if you look at, like, let's just say, like, the steps of how you create a relationship, you meet somebody. So you can meet somebody, you know, at the gas station, or you can meet them online. How you go from there and how you carry those traits of being a good friend, being able to listen, I think if you can apply it in the same way versus somebody you met in person and somebody you met online, you can still achieve the same great relationship and sort of longevity.
Right.
So I think
people like to see a face.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think
so. They're not going to know if you see them somewhere in public. They're not going to know. See, this is where we have this younger, per se, generation.
We call it a generation gap.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I can run into somebody and you know, I know them personally.
Right.
You know, as opposed to the online, you know, how you don't know.
Right. Yeah, and I struggle with that. It's just, you know, I wonder what life is going to be like for my kids. I have 13-year-old twins, and you know, the digital relationships, it's so easy to go make a new one that you don't necessarily, and I don't know, I can't speak for you, obviously, but it's my perception, you don't necessarily invest the time to try to bridge a potential, I don't even know if conflict's the right word, but, you know, Chris, you and I, you know, we probably had fallouts with all of our friends. Sure. You know, you have disagreements and you don't see him for a while, and then you kind of come circle back around him. In the digital world, you get canceled.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And
I think, you push, you know, ignore.
I think too, and I think there's different levels of friendships and relationships.
Right.
You know, I've been blessed and fortunate enough that my close circle of lifelong friends, I grew up with them, played sports with them.
Right.
And
exactly.
they'll never be bumped out of that role.
Because they weren't digital relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that doesn't mean that I can still have space for relationships, whether it's meeting people online. It will never reach that same strength.
Exactly.
But there's still, we all have people in our lives that we're not as close with, but we're still happy that they're a part of our lives.
No, I agree. So Brian, what about you? I know you've had time to think for a minute.
Yeah. So. I mean, you know, my relationship with my dad and things that I've learned, you know, I've been working for him for 10 years.
Right.
And when I started working, you know, he really sold it to me, you know, you can take it as far as you want, you know? So really the the big thing that, thinking about my dad, what I learned from him is that, it's hard. Life is hard. Running a business is hard, and a lot of times, the work's never done. You can always improve and always, get better and do it better, and he always stayed himself, so that's something that I really, I've been fortunate to, sort of see from him, because we've grown, we've go through ups and downs, but he's sort of doing it his way, and he stayed, himself. So it's been, it's helped me, because I'm going through a lot of things that he went through with the business, and, just sort of just believing in myself and staying true to myself, and just always remember that, hey, if no one else is going to do it, it's going to be you, so put in that time, and it's necessary. It has to be there. You can't just roll through, being in a family business. You can't just assume that you're safe, or the business is safe. So you need to really put in the time.
Well, it's a fight. Everybody's fighting for that customer, and everybody's fighting for that efficiency, and everybody's fighting for the employees, right? For the folks that are going to go out there and do the work. And, as soon as you stop fighting, somebody else is going to win the fight, So yeah, that all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that you can't control, that you're constantly, having to resolve or fix or improve, I mean, employees, as an example, we may get back to the office after this, and one of our, key employees may, tell us that they're taking another job, and then now that's the next challenge, or like with fuel pricing, what we're dealing with right now. How do we go from the beginning of the year, diesel was at, about $3.25 a gallon, and now we're getting close to $5. How do we, deal with that? How do we, make that? So just what I learned from him really is that it's hard, and when it gets easy, I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen.
That's being content when it becomes that way, and I don't think you can never be content when you're self-employed. Again, it's a challenge, and there's great rewards.
Yep.
But there's a lot of sacrifices. I try to preach to them all the time that there are things that are out of your control in business. Just like what he said.
Just about everything.
Right. We may come back, to the office, and, one of our key employees, I'm leaving.
Right.
And those are things you can't predict. I shouldn't say predict, but you can't control.
Right.
So I preach there are things in business that you can control. And those controllable things is how you need to fine tune those. That's where you can save money, and become more profitable. I can't pass, if we're not managing the business properly, doing everything as efficient as we can in our business, whatever that may be, the mechanic ordering parts from the right, supplier, whatever, everything, office supplies, this, that, and the other, try to be as efficient. I can't, by being lazy or being per se ignorant to these things, pass that on to a customer.
Right.
To try to make up the difference, to try to still be profitable. That's not fair to the customer.
Right.
That's us internally not doing our job.
Right.
So, but we can control those things.
Yeah.
And I try to get them to focus big time on that. Let's control what we can control. There are things that are out of our control that we'll deal with that when it comes, when it happens.
Right. But it's just like sports.
It's exactly what I was thinking. That's how I look at it.
As soon as you show up to play any kind of a game and you don't show up with everything you have, you will not win that game, because the other team is going to bring everything they have. You got to bring everything you have every day.
Well, it applies to like the fishing stuff.
We're going to get to that now. Let's go. Let's talk about fishing.
The challenge is being prepared, controlling everything that you can control before that boat leaves the dock.
Right.
Is huge.
Yes.
Okay. It's tremendous. If you're just being lazy on a knot.
Yeah.
Or not, checking your line for any nicks in it.
Right. Or checking your safety gear.
Everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you get into a situation where you have a, 200 to 500 pound blue marlin coming up right behind you, you don't need to worry about whether or not that knot's tied properly.
Right.
Was it checked? Or is your line, fresh line? Are there any nicks in your line?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have time for that. So you need to prepare. You need to get all that stuff ready to go and put that out of your mind and only focus on trying to hook that fish.
Right. Right.
It's a very short, 10, 15 seconds of mayhem. Everything has to be prepared properly. So you don't have to worry about that.
Right. So now who's fishing? Brian, you're fishing?
No.
Christopher, you're fishing?
No, not really.
You're the fisherman.
He's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you guys do for sports or fun or hobbies?
I mean, I'm a homebody.
Are you?
Yeah. I mean, any projects around my house, that's what I can decompress.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that may be. And
that's me.
But you do a lot of hunting.
I do. So I do a lot of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
One of my good buddies has got a big chunk of land not far from my house. So, everything from deer, turkey, to just, prepping the land, walking the land, just being outside, and.
So, but a lot of people don't realize hunting isn't often as much about hunting as it is about the camaraderie of who you're hunting with.
It is. And, I mean, there's I don't know if it's ironic to say, I mean, guys that hunt will understand, but there's a piece to it. There's a piece to sitting up in a tree stand, and it's just you and it's just you in the woods.
Yep.
You're hearing everything from birds, the squirrels to possibly a deer, turkey. I mean, turkey season, you're hearing turkey gobbles.
Right.
And you're still, you're silent, and you just get to focus on one thing, which is that hunt, and everything else just sort of goes by the wayside. Whatever works. Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I fell in love with it.
Yeah. How about you, Christopher?
I'm kind of all over the place. I mean, right. I've always had a deep love for sports.
Right.
So I think, portions of the day I'm always trying to follow what's going on, whether it's, NBA, NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely dived down a rabbit hole of interest in it recently, probably in the last year and a half, sports cards, sports memorabilia, some stuff online, a lot of, talk about the NFTs or cryptocurrency, stuff
that'll get those NFTs. I will never buy one.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token.
It's kind of we don't need to go down the explanation, but it's sort of it's like a form of art, and so just stuff, business. I love, reading success stories or just something like this podcast, listening to podcasts just like this, so just all over the place, just anything that interests me. And it circles around, sports and even, earlier when we were talking about sort of mentors stuff, role models, and how similar business and sports are. I have so many, role models and just these, athletes that grow up, and I'm not playing a sport today, but I think business is sports. So I still have so many people I look up to and try to apply the same sort of principles as they did that made them reach success. But yeah, interest, sports, memorabilia.
You guys are on 3 different planets with
and that's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. I mean, Brian and I, we certainly share the love of the outdoors and hunting. I don't do it as much as I used to.
Right.
But I understand it. And
I'm
I
opposite.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
I like to fish though. Fishing's fun. I haven't done any hunting.
Have you been fishing with your dad?
Yeah. I mean, even when we were younger, yeah. And when you're younger, sometimes you don't really appreciate
you don't
the
get
art
it.
of you don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think in recent years even and he's got a place, on the water. I've grown to enjoy it, love it, look at it a little competitively. I need to catch a fish, and then you catch one fish, well, why can't I go for 2?
Right.
So I've grown the appreciation for it, and I think it's cool.
Yeah. So how much time do you spend fishing?
Well, so I started fishing as a kid. just because growing up in Florida, there was tons of, opportunities.
Where did you grow up in Florida? What part?
South Florida.
Okay.
Boca Raton, West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Messing around there, that's how, killed time. It was at sports and fishing. I mean, the opportunity was right there. I could walk right out the back of my house and bass fish.
Right.
There was a little channel there, canal, and I was able to do that. And I think that allowed me, it started the process of me being able to escape whatever was going on.
Right.
And just focus on that.
Right.
And then I got away from it. When I moved up here, fishing wasn't as available as it was. So I focused on sports, and then which led into my family.
Right.
Having, young. I mean, I started out, my oldest was born, I was 20 years old.
Wow.
So it's been challenging.
Sure.
So I didn't have opportunities to get away and escape. I coached the kids in football, baseball, and that was a huge priority to me. But again, I didn't have that opportunity for myself. And I also felt like it was a selfish act to be away from my family and doing something for my own personal enjoyment. Later on, things got a little bit easier. The kids got a little bit older.
Right.
And I started bass fishing around here on the Potomac River.
Right.
And truly enjoyed that. Fished a lot of tournaments. But that was the opportunity for the kids to be able to go fishing. Take them out on the boat and go have fun for the day. Yeah. Mess around and fish.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. This is true. Well, especially if you're not catching anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Then that led to offshore fishing. And I was very fortunate to know some guys that were able to allow me to play a role in offshore fishing, which came very competitive.
So are you doing that in Florida, or are you doing that?
We did it all over,
all up and down.
So we would start Mexico.
Wow.
Fish in Mexico, which would help you out for the rest of the season because you had so many opportunities at sailfish. We were all billfish. That's right. That's what we fish for. That would lead to the Bahamas, which would turn around and then we'd come right back over, start in South Carolina, work our way all the way up, fishing South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Ocean City. And then come wintertime, the boat would move down to Florida. We would fish tournaments in Florida or head over to Costa Rica and fish.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And I met a tremendous amount of great people and very, very successful people. Now, the great thing about that was here I am, this grass cutter. Okay?
You keep saying that, but
but I am socializing with guys that have multi-million-dollar companies, 400 to 600 employees, and we could sit down in a relaxed environment, somewhat relaxed because we're talking about business, and discuss pluses and minuses in each other's business, and it was all basic stuff.
Right.
Employees.
Yep.
Trying to keep a certain profit margin.
Yep.
How do you do this? I mean, I felt if guys are asking me questions, then I must be doing something right.
Absolutely.
These guys that are extremely successful. So it was great. I mean, I truly. I cherish those moments, and I got no regrets, none whatsoever. Now I've sort of gotten a little burned out over it. There's a lot of traveling, and I've sort of backed it down a little bit. Yes, will I still continue to fish? Absolutely. I am finding enjoyment out of getting on my little skiff, 16-foot skiff that I have, and going out to my inlet and catching, whatever, 2 or 3 pound stripers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm finding just as much enjoyment out of that as opposed to catching a 500-pound blue marlin.
It's the same thing like sitting in a hunting stand.
Yeah.
You know, it's that time alone where you can think and be with nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And detune.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And hopefully, you know, focus, you know, be able to think through some of your issues that you have so you're not making snap decisions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sounds good. All good stories, fellas. A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. We will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin custom home. So Christopher, let's shift gears here for a second and let's talk about your company. So we haven't even said the name of your company in this whole entire podcast.
We have actually 2 companies.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your business, and then I guess Chris, why don't you tell us about your 2 companies, and then Christopher, why don't you give us the features, advantages, and benefits of your company so that folks can kind of get get your sales pitch. I'm certainly not part of your company.
So the original business was Pro Mow.
Yes.
Which was grass cutting, mulching, hedge and bush trimming.
Yep.
That led into fertilization.
Mm-hmm.
That started with the fertilization because one of my good friends, that's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And we joined forces,
mm-hmm.
and he sort of took that on. I've never done anything just to do it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure it does.
You need to be smart in what you're doing. Which later on, I don't know, 10, 15 years in the business, I ended up buying a sprinkler company.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, could Pro Mow have done sprinklers? We probably could have jack-legged that around and gotten away with some stuff. But again, it's your reputation.
Right, right.
So
what's the name of the sprinkler company?
Superior Sprinkler Systems. The opportunity came up for me to buy that. And I did, and it's a good add-on to our business, but it's a separate business.
Right.
We can play off of each other, but they have their specialties doing the sprinkler system. There's an art to that. So it's just like I'm not taking Pro Mow employees and just say, hey, go out there and, go fix that sprinkler system or go out and install that sprinkler system. This is what they do, and this is what they only do.
Right. Do you have the same office management team for both? Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're able to handle it, and that falls into line with what Christopher and both Brian too have been really hardcore on is with the computers, with the software packages.
Right.
Now I've had it forever, software packages, but putting these together to be able to cross the customers over.
Yeah.
Has been a huge challenge.
Mm-hmm. So Christopher, tell us because you handle the sales and the marketing for the organization. So when you're meeting a customer, what do you tell them? Why should they use Pro Mow and Superior Sprinklers?
Yeah, and to sort of summarize what he explained, basically both the companies offer, lawn maintenance, property maintenance services for both residential and commercial.
Okay.
And as you well know, because you deal with the purchasing, selling of homes, the landscape is just as important because it's part of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically offer services that is going to maintain, keep everything healthy, lush, and looking sharp, because it's an extension of your home, just like the inside is. So we offer those standard services, and then sort of to explain what would differentiate ourselves, because just like he was talking about, so many people can do these services. Anybody can purchase a lawnmower, learn it. It's a fairly simple skill. Majority of people in the country probably cut their own yard, mulch their own beds, trim their own things. Okay, so what benefit do we serve as a company? If a customer doesn't have time, they don't have the understanding, or they just want somebody to do it because they'll do it better than them, that's where we could come in and perform the work. How the entire relationship works with having a service provider is something that I've and we've dived in to make it more seamless.
Right.
How we communicate with customers when we're going to schedule their services, how they can go online and have an account just like they do with all these other different types of expenses in their lives, and they can see what services they're getting. If they are interested or want a separate service that we offer, do they have pricing that's available to them? Can they sign up easily online,
right.
Or through the phone? A big thing is that we still, the same way that we sell and offer services in 2022 is we still do it the same way that we did in 2000, but we can offer more ways for people to get our services and have a relationship. So if people want to call, sometimes I use the scenario, it's like if you want to order pizza. Nowadays you can call and order pizza, but a lot of these pizza you can go online and you can order it. Some people want to call and some people will just want to do it online.
Right.
So if you get, from a business perspective, if you give customers the option, I think you have a better chance of acquiring more and happy customers.
You're absolutely right. People, you got to be able to acquire the customer in the way the customer wants to be acquired.
Yeah. So that, and with these new channels, and regardless of whether it's texting, online, new technologies, inventions have just came along. Since 2000, you can do things more, like whether it's GPS on phones now. You don't have to use a physical map. That's a huge difference. Some people may still want to use a physical map, but that's up to them. So implementing new ways of making customers happy, whether it's texting them, emailing them, calling them, giving them those options, and I guess that's the best way to explain it. That's how we want to separate ourselves, is being a service provider. It's easy to use, honest, communicative, caters to the customer.
Yeah. And I'll just say, as a previous customer, you guys were my lawn service when I lived in Oakton, and I've had a lot of lawn services since then, and you guys were 100% reliable. You did a great job. Didn't even really know you were there, right? And to me, that's the measure of a great lawn service. When I have to get involved because something wasn't done right, or somebody didn't cut the backyard, or they didn't do the edging, that's a headache that I don't think any homeowner needs. And whatever you guys are doing and however you're doing it, my experience with your company was really phenomenal. And I was sad when you wouldn't come to McLean, and I did not get good service in McLean when I was there.
Right now we have 3 ladies in the office.
Yeah.
Customer service is huge.
Everything.
And if there's a problem, and there's going to be problems, I mean,
sure.
It's just, it is what it is, whatever it is. We try to minimize them, obviously. But if a customer calls, we're on it.
Yeah.
One of my huge pet peeves, it's always been, is that phone needs to be answered within 2, rings.
Right.
And that's a huge thing. That's going to set us off compared to the 1-2 truck guys, because they're out there hustling. They can't do that. And then we're on it. We have things in place.
Yeah.
You have a problem, we miss something, goes right to our foreman. They're on it, relays it right to the crew. There's protocols.
Yeah, but having good crews is everything, because then you don't get the phone calls to begin with.
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. And I've been very fortunate with guys that have been working for me. I think our longest is 20 years.
Wow, it's amazing.
And, majority of the other guys are, 12 to, 15 years. It's been tremendous. It's been challenging. But then again, they're not a number.
Right.
They're family to us.
Exactly.
And they can come to us with any issues, and we work with them.
Right.
And it's been great. You're only as good as your employees.
Absolutely. So, Brian, is there anything you want to add to what your dad and your brother said about the company?
Yeah, I think like what you asked, Christopher, what would you say, to a new customer sort of about us?
Right.
How would you sell us? I think, it's 30 years, in the business, learning from our mistakes. And Like what my dad was just saying about, our employees. I mean, we treat them like family. Our employees are genuinely happy. Yeah, I say genuinely happy, you know, and that shows in the quality of work, and not just from the guys cutting the grass, but, from our, administrators in the office, helping a customer out. And that 30 years in the business, we, like I said, knowing the rights from wrong. So we know any issue that comes up on a customer's lawn, needs to be addressed immediately and, professionally. And, mistakes happen. Nobody's perfect, but building that relationship with your customer, that's what we want. We want long-term, relationships, and, it's just that many years in the business is just, so much knowledge. And that's what I try to tell, any prospective customers is that, you're talking to, a guy with the company. We really care. I can tell you firsthand,
absolutely,
from top to bottom, and it shows. And if we make a mistake, we'll own up to it, but like I said, just we know the rights from wrongs, so a lot of hardworking people.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I agree with everything you guys said. All right, so to wrap up our conversation today, so Chris, I'm going to ask you, what lessons have you learned from your sons and working with them?
Wow. What lessons have I learned from them?
Yeah.
Probably to be able to walk away. I say this respectfully.
Yeah.
Walk away and not walk away with what I want to say and go cool off before letting it just flow out of my mouth. I can tell. I know that they are, when I'm on them.
Yeah.
And I'm on them. I feel like I'm on them because I want them to be successful.
Right.
And them being successful allows me to be able to retire.
Right.
And you have to do things right. So when I see some laziness, you could call it laziness. They're really not lazy.
Sure.
But when I'm on them, I know what's going through their head. I probably get about 0.25% they're taking in.
Yeah.
The 3/4 of it, they're cussing me out. So I am learning that to take that frustration from me, from them, and just backing it off and walking away.
Right.
And not saying things that can come back, that are detrimental.
Yeah.
And again, it's tough. It's tough because I have to look at things that these are my children.
Right.
This is our family.
Yeah.
And try to separate the family, from the business, which is, like we talked about earlier, is very difficult.
Right.
Because when we're together, we're talking about business. There's never, hey, how things going, around the house, how's your girlfriend doing? There's none of that stuff, which is very unfortunate. And if there really is, it's very small. Yeah. And that's the sad part about it. So I'm trying to do better with that.
I can tell you he's learned how to write an email from us. He's learned that PTO stands for paid time off and not power take off, so
again,
there's a lot of small things he
learns. That's correct. Too. Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's a time we've all learned from each other.
Sure, absolutely.
And just like, when we were talking about things that we do outside of the office, it's such a different hobbies and different ways of thinking. So I think we all learn from each other in that sense. And, take the good with the bad and try to apply it. Yeah. So it's every day. There's always something every day.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah. So anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up?
You can find our companies, online, promowlawns.com.
Yep.
And superiorsprinklerinc.com.
Yep.
Like we were saying, we're located in Loudoun County. So, the Ashburn, areas to the Oakton areas to the Haymarket areas, you know, we provide, you know, those residential maintenances. Call our office. And
which phone number?
703-957-4880 is our main number.
Okay.
And they'll be able to answer any questions that you have. If you're interested in any services, let them know. And we'll set up a time for you to meet with one of our representatives.
Sounds great.
Social media too. We're on social media. Activity is going to pick up a lot.
I've
more
heard.
this year. We've got some good things, and with me behind it too, we got some good things, and we're gonna really increase our online presence. And with just giving, not necessarily you just looking for straight sales, but just shedding information about the industry, about services, and just putting ourselves out there. Good deal.
Chris, anything you want to add? You good?
I mean, we had talked earlier about success.
Yeah.
And, I don't like that word success.
Yes.
Because I feel like, it puts you, if you concede to it, then you become complacent.
Yeah.
But doing what we're doing today and having my children here, that's success, if I had to say it.
You stole the words out of my mouth.
I mean, it's very, very fulfilling to see their passion. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, running a business for as long as you have is a measure of success as well. It's not easy. There's a lot of things that come along that knock you down, and you guys have done a great job, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you today, and really appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Yeah.
Good deal.
Been fun.
Yes.